To make the Alani shirt, we're going to start by placing a shirt front on top of the shirt back, aligning at the shoulder seams and then also at the underarm down the side seam. So after you pinned along the side seam and the shoulder seam, you'll sew to attach the shirt front to the shirt back. And then after you sew it, make sure that you use a serger or a zigzag stitch to finish that seam. You'll repeat the same process with the remaining shirt front to the other side of the shirt back, sewing along the shoulder and the side seam. You'll apply fusible interfacing to the wrong side of each button placket piece. Then take the shirt front, lay it with the wrong side facing up, and sew to attach the button placket with the right side of the button placket touching the wrong side of the shirt front along that center front seam. After you sew the button placket to the shirt front, press it away from the shirt front, fold over that inside edge, and then fold it over one more time and sew to attach. Repeat for both button placket pieces, and then let's move on to the collar. So you will apply fusible interfacing to the wrong side of the collar main, and then place the two collar pieces together with right sides touching, line up the outer edges and the sides, and then sew to attach the two collar pieces together. Use pinking shears to trim away the seam allowance. You can also clip off that corner and then turn the collar right side out and then iron. You could also top stitch around the sewn edges of the collar for more stability. Next, you'll find your collar stand piece. Apply fusible interfacing to one of the collar stand pieces, and then the other collar stand you'll fold over that long straight edge 1/2 inch. Place one side of the collar onto the interfaced collar stand, aligning the center of the collar with the center of the collar stand, and then continue to place the collar to the stand. Next, you'll place the remaining collar stand piece, the one with the folded edge, on top of that collar and collar stand already pinned together. With right sides touching, you'll sandwich the collar in between the two stand pieces, keeping that 1/2 inch fold intact the whole time. Once your collar is pinned in between the two collar stand pieces, go ahead and sew along that outer curved edge. Again, ensuring that that 1/2 inch fold of the uninterfaced collar stand stays up the whole time. Again, use your pinking shears here to clip the seam allowance, really taking your time around the curve of the collar stand. And then turn the collar stand right side out. Iron it flat and smooth. If you'd like to top stitch the collar seam to the collar stand, you can now, or you can wait until the end. Before you attach the collar, I like to stay stitch along the neckline. It just keeps it from getting stretched out and warped. So use a long straight stitch, maybe a 1/4 inch away from the neckline seam here, just to keep things nice and tidy. As you start to attach the collar to the shirt, you're going to place the right side of the interfaced collar stand to the right side of the shirt front along the neckline. So I start by aligning the notch of the collar stand to the back center of the shirt, and then the front edge of the collar stand to the front edge, the center front of the shirt, and then ease the neckline to the collar stand, making sure that the uninterfaced, that folded collar stand kind of stays out of the way while you sew to attach the collar to the shirt front. Once the interfaced side of the collar stand is sewn to the shirt front, you'll press that seam allowance up towards the collar, and it kind of tucks inside of the folded edge of the uninterfaced collar stand. So that folded edge kind of goes just over the stitch line there. I like to pin it in place. You can also use fusible interfacing or stay tape here. And then I like to sew it from the right side of the shirt just so that I make sure that that stitch line looks really nice and tidy. So remove your pins from the inside as you go, or again, you can use fusible stay tape here just to keep everything in place. And if you didn't sew or top stitch along the edges of the collar or collar stand, now is a great time to do it before you start working on the buttons. If you're sewing the sleeve tab option, you'll place 2 sleeve tab pieces together with right sides touching, and then pin along the outer curved edge of the sleeve tab. Sew to attach it and use pinking shears to clip away your seam allowance. Next, you will baste the curved edges of your sleeve tab together, just kind of butting that finished edge together. I like to use a zigzag stitch. This just keeps the sleeve tab from kind of splitting open as you attach it to the sleeve of your shirt. With your shirt right side out, slide the sleeve tab on top of the shirt at that armhole opening. You'll align the basted curved edge of your sleeve tab with the shoulder seam of the shirt, and then just pin around, attaching the sleeve tab to the shirt. If you didn't sew the sleeve tab, you will hem the sleeve just like you're hemming the bottom of your shirt by, I like to serge the edge and then fold it up 1/2 inch and top stitch, or you can turn it up 1/4 inch, another 1/4 inch, and then top stitch that way too to hem the shirt. And if you didn't sew the sleeve tab, you will hem the sleeve the same way. We'll finish the Alani shirt by creating our buttonholes and attaching our buttons. So I use this nice buttonhole gauge, evenly spaces the buttonholes. I like to start with the wearer's left side to attach the buttons. So I mark where I want each button, and then I lower the feed dogs of my sewing machine, put on a zigzag stitch, and attach each button onto those markings. If you use bigger buttons, you'll want to space them out a little bit bigger. If you're using smaller buttons like I am in this shirt sample, you'll want them a little bit closer together. So just space them out evenly, however it looks aesthetically pleasing to you. And then start by attaching the buttons to the wearer's left side of that button placket. Once you have all your buttons sewn on, I line up the button plackets on the right and left side, and then I mark where the top of the buttonhole should be so that it's all evenly spaced and aligned with the buttons. I like to use a washable sewing pen here. I have a buttonhole attachment for my sewing machine, so I hook that up, and then I use that to sew each buttonhole. And then you can cut open each buttonhole and use fray check there so that your inside of your buttonholes won't fray.